Alright, I hope you have a wonderful day today with a new video. It's your boy Mats, you know what it is, guys. If you're new here, please leave a sub, of course. Maybe we can hit that 20 likes in that video. That would be awesome. So hit that thumbs up. And today with a short story, with another short story. I have been in coma for years. I could hear everything, okay? Let's go.
Hi there, I'm Aria.
Hi, Aria.
Not being able to say, I'm hungry, I'm hurting, thank you, I love you. Imagine yourself being imprisoned inside a body which doesn't obey your orders at all. People are all around you, yet you feel alone. It wouldn't be easy, would it? Well, I lived for years feeling this way. Years of wishing for the ability to connect, to express, to share with others. Maybe you're wondering about the reason? Well, it was that I fell off the tree. I was my mom and dad's only child. We were a middle-class family, and we lived in a small house with a stunning backyard, which had an old oak tree that was said to be even older than my grandparents.
Be aware of trees, okay? Trees can be dangerous.
When my dad first bought the house, he found a tree house in the oak tree built by the kids who had lived in the house before us. After a lot of convincing, my father agreed to fix the tree house. He even made a wooden ladder so I could climb into the tree easily. I remember helping my dad decorate its walls with posters and photos of my favorite band. For a second, you might be thinking,
Metallica?
What a sweet family. But no, this wasn't the case exactly. You see, my mom was a moody woman who yelled a lot, and nothing me or my dad did could please her. She would spend the whole night smoking cigarettes in front of the TV and then sleep the whole day. As for my dad, he spent his time working so he could pay the bills and buy us food. And me, well, after I got home...
Nice, Dad. He's a good man. He's a good boy. It's a good boy. To be in coma, that must be a horrible feeling when you wake up in the past 3-4 years. Yeah, you recognize it's nothing, and the other people live their life. That must be very hard.
There was nothing for me to do but go and play with my dolls in the treehouse. For my 13th birthday, my dad bought me the best gift ever. He bought me a little white puppy that was super fluffy. I called him Snowball. Perhaps this
I'm cuter than the dog.
Yes, Fridolin, you are cute as the dog, okay? You're as cute as the dog.
I want
so, yeah, okay. Fridolin gets jealous very quick, so yeah, he's a little bit jealous. Yeah, you're as cute as this dog, okay? Be afraid, Fridolin.
Dog would keep me company so I wouldn't be so alone. I loved Snowball, and I taught him lots of tricks. We used to spend all day together in the treehouse. We would only go home to eat dinner. That way, we steered clear of my mom's yelling and her long fights with my dad. I watched the sky a lot during my days in the treehouse.
That must be nice.
Back then, my dad only came home after...
We have built tree houses as well when I was a young child, and we loved it. And then the neighbor kids destroyed it every day. Like, why? Why? Somebody built something and the other kids destroyed it. That would be like a daily business as in my childhood. And I don't understand why. Why can't we live in common and not like against each other? I don't understand. I do not understand. And my neighbor kid built, to be perfectly honest, my neighborhood kid built the best tree houses. Mine were very bad.
After the sun had set, so I'd watch the stars lighting up the sky. They looked amazing. I knew that those stars were nothing but meteors traveling fast through the sky as they burned, but everything my dad told me about them made them seem magical. One time, I was watching the sky with Snowball, waiting for my dad to return home. When he arrived, he climbed up and sat beside me. He said, "This falling star is a wish that just came true for someone out there in the world." "A wish?" I said. He explained a long time ago there was a poor man praying to the gods every day. However, the gods were always busy, so they didn't answer him. One day, he screamed so loudly the mountains shook. The gods looked at him and listened to his troubles. They became so sad and cried burning stars. So this way, whenever he saw a falling star in the sky, he'd make a wish and the gods would make them come true. "But can this be possible?" I asked. And he replied, "Legends are a beautiful thing to hear, but not to believe. If the legends are so old, how can we know if they are true or not?" I asked. He just smiled at me and said it was time to head back into the house. On that same night, while I was lying in bed hugging Snowball, it started to feel like my life...
cute. He's so cute.
My mom was screaming hysterically at my dad, telling him that the money he was bringing in was no longer enough and that he should start searching
What
for
is
an
with
extra
her?
job. She's
What does he has for problems, girl? What is her problem? That she's yelling all the time. Please exchange your mom, okay? You need a new mother. Okay, that's a little bit hard. But I think they will be divorced in a few scenes later. I can't imagine that they stay together, okay?
said that she could no longer go out with her friends because she was so embarrassed. She couldn't afford to buy new dresses every time they went out like her friends did. I saw Snowball looking at me as if he wanted to say, "What a silly woman." The fighting and loud screaming continued for a long time until I could no longer bear it. I snuck out of the window and headed towards the dark oak tree in the backyard.
Oh, no.
Everything around me was dark. Behind me walked
And now
Snowball.
she will
We
fall
crept
down the
very
ladder.
quietly so no one would hear us. And then we arrived at the treehouse. It was pitch black, so I missed a step on the ladder, and then my leg slipped. The last thing I remembered from that day was that after I fell hard on the ground, everything around me turned fuzzy. Snowball sounded far away, even though I could see him jumping around me. Then I wasn't able to feel anything. After a little while, I felt myself waking up. My head hurt and I couldn't feel any part of my body. I'd completely lost control over my body parts.
no.
Even my eyes, I couldn't open them. I could feel the light around me, but it was too difficult to open my eyes. Oh my, what happened to me? Was I stuck in my sleep? Or was it worse
Can
than
this
that?
really
Had I
happen?
died?
That you can do nothing, that you can't even move a part of your body, or you can't open your eyes, but you're conscious. Okay, my cell phone is ringing. Hello? So is this real? That would be so creepy, okay, if you're totally conscious, but you can do nothing.
That after death, a person drowns in darkness. But this darkness I felt was different. Completely different. I could feel my body freezing. Suddenly I heard someone. If I was able to hear him, that means I wasn't dead. Thank God. From his tone of voice, I gathered he was a doctor speaking to my parents. He said, "The damage she suffered to her head due to the fall has resulted in severe internal bleeding in her brain, which is preventing enough oxygen from reaching her body, resulting in a coma." But I wasn't in a coma. I was there with them. I heard my dad.
Are
crying
there
and my
any
mom
doctors in the
inquiring
comments,
about the
guys?
treatment.
Are there any doctors in under my audience? But is this possible? That you are in a coma, so to say, and you can not give a single sign, but you can hear everything? Is this possible?
I wanted to scream, to call out for them, to say something, anything. But I wasn't able to even talk at that time. Suddenly, I was just a vegetable, unable to do anything but listen. Most people don't.
Why do you compare yourself to a vegetable? Vegetable. It's a very difficult for a German guy. Vegetable. You compare yourself to anything, but not to a vegetable, okay?
Twice before talking or connecting with others. They do it automatically, but I had absolutely no way of speaking to anyone. For the last 13
That must
years,
be hard.
I had been a normal girl. A girl who loved her dad, her dog, and who loved to play. I was happy and healthy, but now, suddenly, that had all changed. The doctors didn't know what to do. They thought I was completely in a coma, but they always treated me nicely. All the time I spent in the hospital, I only heard my dad's voice. My mom had completely vanished. I didn't know where she was, and I didn't hear anything related to her until the day the doctor said there is nothing more they can do.
She's a very
and that
nice
it is
dad.
best for me
He's a very nice
to
guy.
return to my parents' home. I heard my mom arguing with my dad. She didn't want me back home. I was, according to her, a burden that she didn't want to carry. But I went home anyway. I was happy because I was returning home. I heard my dad telling my mom that he finished the treehouse because that was the last thing I asked him to do. That's why he insisted on bringing me back home, so I could be near the things I loved. However, things went downhill from there. I lost my ability to move. I failed all the mind exams they conducted on me in the hospital, so the doctors told my parents they could treat me as if I didn't exist. My return home was just a hopeless attempt at keeping my unconscious body comfortable until I died. My dad tried his hardest to keep me comfortable, and that really annoyed my mom. Their friends stopped visiting after a while, and the money Dad was providing was no longer enough. Machines that were keeping me alive were too expensive. Before, I was
So
able
she has to die. We have to destroy the machines to get her alive. No, of course that was a joke, okay? Sometimes I'm joking. But that was a really bad joke. So I'm very curious what happens now, if she will wake up or if she will die on that machine. Then I'm still very curious if it's possible, so that you're conscious, but you can't do anything.
Escape my mom screaming and ranting, but today I was stuck with it without them even knowing that I could hear them. The whole thing felt like a nightmare. When my dad first got me Snowball,
the first thing where I would be a parent or a person around her, and after 3 years she said I could hear everything, I would be like, oh, did I say something wrong when she lays beside us? Did I say something wrong? That would be very uncomfortable moment when you say something in her ear, and yeah, she could hear that. Yeah. So when you meet or when you visit person COMA, just say good things. Maybe she can hear you.
Very smart and could just understand me without even having to talk to him. But my dad used to laugh and say, dogs are about as smart as a 3-year-old. They can feel when you're happy, sad, or scared, but they can't read your mind. Deep down though, I knew Snowball was no ordinary dog. He was special enough to be able to read my thoughts because we had this insane bond. Every time my parents started their screaming matches, I'd hear Snowball sitting beside me and barking in a low voice, as if to tell me that everything would be alright. I was sure that Snowball knew I was a prisoner in my body, unlike what everyone else believed. He never left my side. His breathing was my only comfort. For a while, I used to be entertained by my father when he entered my room at night and started moving my body left and right to help my blood circulate. Once he was done, he'd sit beside me and talk with me for an hour or so about his day, like he used to before. But that didn't last for long. The last talk he had with me was about how tired he was, both physically and mentally. That he was very upset he'd lost his little girl, the only person in the whole world who used to listen to him. That day, I heard him sobbing so loudly. Then he suddenly said, I can no longer bear to look at you like this anymore. After that, he stopped talking to me altogether. A year quickly turned into 2, and I felt the person I used to be disappearing. Not just her body, but also her memories. My mom said that she'd had enough with my stuff taking up so much room, and that she could put the space to good use. My dad wasn't able to refuse, so he just said that he'd moved my things to the
What a
treehouse.
horrible mom.
It wasn't long.
What a heartless mother. What a heartless mother. The couple should split up so that they aren't together anymore, because the father is such a good guy and the mother is such a heartless piece of you know what I mean?
To another one that was more practical and way smaller. It had barely enough room for my bed, machines, and for one person to be able to move around in. That was enough for me, according to my mom. What was worse was that this little room was next to the living room. That meant that I could hear everything. I mean, literally down to the tiniest details. 2 years turned to 3, and I was still in the same place with no one aware of my existence. It was like I was a ghost. Whenever my mom's friends came to visit, they used to ignore me, as if I was just part of the furniture. I was dead to everyone, just not in the ground. Only Snowball remained at my side. My mom and her friends' conversations were ridiculous. They gossiped a lot and couldn't stop judging their relatives. Sometimes they talked about clothes, travel, and their husbands.
How long does a year feel for her? She can't do anything, okay? She has no hobbies and that stuff. She only lays there and she can't hear to the people and she can't even speak to them. But how long does a year feel for her? That must be insane.
I once heard my mom talking ill about my dad. She said he was the reason behind her unhappiness and that she had met some rich guy at a coffee shop. That guy had invited her for a drink and she'd gone to meet him. And now she was seriously considering leaving me and my dad. For me, that was the worst part about those 3 years. Feeling totally powerless and not being able to stand in front of her and not being able to scream, "You're an ungrateful woman! All the things dad did for you, and yet it's never enough. Now you want to leave him because some other guy has more money?" My poor dad didn't deserve my mom, or even me. I found myself in utter darkness, and the darkness was swallowing my dad up whole. I couldn't remember much about my life before the fall. I was so terrified I'd forget everything. I remembered having a friend called Maisie, but I couldn't remember what we used to do or how we would spend time together. I remember loving science, but I no longer remembered any of the stuff that we'd learned at school. At the same time, my mind clung onto those memories, and at the same time, started creating new ones that hadn't existed before. I had to find a way to stay here, in this world, even if I had to create my own world inside my head. Maisie became my best friend. She always visited on Sundays. Every time she came, she talked about her classmates. How Sophie had fallen in love with Joe, had failed the math test, so the teacher had punished him by making him solve 10 equations in front of the whole class. Maisie's visits, though they were only in my head, were the best parts of my day. I didn't know that what I was doing in order to entertain myself was actually a kind of exercise for my damaged mind. I didn't realize that I was helping myself get better. If I'd known, I wouldn't have waited 3 years to start doing it. My consciousness was slowly returning. You might wonder, how did I realize that? Well,
and that must be so.
I felt.
Imagine you lay there for like years, decades, okay, for like 30 years, and then you say, okay, I don't want to live anymore, okay, I want to die. So she can't even signalize that. She can't even say that she wants to die now. She has no impact on her life, okay? When the parents or other people decide, okay, that she lays for 50 years in her bed, she has to. And that is the most shocking thing on that story, okay?
Flutter whenever Maisie visited me. Believe it or not, our thoughts have incredible power. But even so, no one knew that I was coming out of a coma. Ever since I'd first been diagnosed as being in a coma, I was totally aware of everything happening around me, exactly like a normal person. But I was stuck inside a silent body, it seemed, a mind full of life that no one noticed. I started accepting this cruel fate and got lost in my made-up thoughts. Suddenly, I could no longer tell the difference between what was real and what wasn't. There's a fine line that separates memory from imagination, and I'd clearly overstepped it. But the one thing I was absolutely certain of was that the fights my parents had and my mom's betrayal were 100% real. After 4 years, my mom had had enough of me. How long must I endure moving this body left and right without any response? She would yell in my dad's face, and he would answer, until she dies. Imagine being in my position, not being able to speak to a friend, not feeling loved anymore, not having any ambitions or dreams, no hope of being able to look forward to anything. All my thoughts were miserable ones. I lived in fear, and if I was being honest, I was waiting for death so I could escape from all of this. I pictured myself dying in some nursing home, cold and alone. And so that's how I spent those 4 long years. Snowball's existence was my only comfort. My eyelids started fluttering a lot. You might think that's not really a big deal. Anyone can do that without trying. Snowball noticed what was going on and started to bark for hours and hours without stopping. My mom couldn't tolerate it. My dad came home and Snowball continued to bark. Everyone went to bed and Snowball was still barking. He was just like me, wishing for someone to realize that I was still with them. But what happened was the opposite of what we hoped for. The next day, his barking stopped completely.
No!
I didn't know what had happened to him. Mom must have gotten rid of him. I was really worried about him. Snowball was my only friend, the only one that made me feel that I wasn't actually dead. He disappeared. That day, I heard some heated discussion between my parents. You might say that nothing was new, but...
Oh, the mother brought him away. Snowflake. No, snowman? Snowflake? Snowflake. Snow White. Yeah. My brain is like that, okay? It's like that. I forgot what was his name. Snowball. Snowflake? Snow...
This time, it was different. My mom decided to leave my dad. She accused him of having never been the perfect husband.
This is the best thing. What could happen in this story, okay? That the mom leaves the dad. Because the mom is a piece of to be honest.
Crazy. He was the coolest dad a girl could ever wish for. He tried to persuade her to stay, but it was pointless. She screamed at the top of her voice. It would have been better if she died that day. It's like a curse that won't go away unless I leave. The sound of the door slamming was the last thing I heard that day. I was incapable of changing.
She doesn't deserve that man, and she doesn't deserve such a nice daughter.
Me, or even the way my mom and dad looked at me. I was an invisible, silent watcher to how people acted when they thought no one was looking. Unfortunately, I wasn't just a watcher. Because of my inability to communicate with people, I became the perfect victim. A creature that looked like it was devoid of emotions. For 4 years, my mom used to abuse me mentally and physically. What did I ever do to her to deserve that? A part of me wanted to cry, and the other part wanted to fight. I was so full of pain and sadness. It was torture. The following day, it was like I no longer existed inside the house. My dad was really depressed. He moved me to a nursing home, exactly like I'd expected would happen. I felt worthless now without Snowball, and without people
Snowball,
around
okay,
me.
Snowball. Snowball, she hasn't Snowball anymore, she hasn't her dad anymore, and her mom anymore. She has nobody.
Became
This is
even
hard.
more of a shell of my former self. Another year went by and everyone still thought I was in a deep coma. In the nursing house, everything was so quiet. No voices, no movements, and no talking. Just a stranger who moved me left and right every day and who made sure that my machines were working normally. The 6-year mark came and went, and then the 7th, and everything was the same. I used to
7
figure out
years,
at the
okay? And everybody gives her up, so nobody visits her anymore? Because they say, okay, 7 years are over, okay, we can forget her. When you love her, I think you still visit her after 7 years.
Nurses
Am I wrong?
changing shifts every 6 hours. That meant that on the 4th time I was moved, a day would have passed. No one visited me during the 3 years that I spent there, except my friend Maisie. No one cared about me but her. I lived in terror. I knew every day would be exactly the same.
Okay, I have slept very less, guys, this night, so I'm a little bit tired, okay, ignore that.
Over and over again. I totally lost any hope I had of hearing another person's voice. But then one night, my dad decided to visit me. I had no idea what date it was because I'd lost all sense of time. But it happened to be my 20th birthday. He held my hand and I couldn't believe it when I heard his voice. It felt like a dream. He told me, "You won't be alone anymore. I'll be with you forever."
How does she know
from now
that
on."
1 year passed by? Because she can't count the days or something like that. She doesn't know if it were like 7 years or 5 years or 8 years or 1 year. Maybe she thinks that these are 7 years, but in real, okay, that was 2 years or something like that.
You just turned 20. Emotions welled up in me, and suddenly I could feel the familiar fluttering of my eyelids. I had to open my eyes. I couldn't stay like this anymore. My dad had his face buried in my shoulder and he was crying. He couldn't see my face or my eyes, but when he turned his head, he jumped and ran outside screaming at the top of his voice, "Doctor! I need a doctor!" Perhaps emotions have more power than we realize. My dad's love for me made me open my eyes once again. The doctors ran some tests on me and none of them could explain what had happened. They only
True
said
love,
the
guys.
damage that her head suffered
True love is the solution, okay? True love.
was apparently able to heal with time. Your daughter is out of her coma. To make sure I was able to hear them, the doctor asked me to blink twice. And I did it! Being able to communicate again, even in a simple way, felt like the best thing in the world. But even more than that
Okay,
was the
she
fact
can
that
communicate with blinking, okay? Blink 3 times or 2 times or something like that. But she can communicate, this is the most important thing. But she can't move any other parts of her body.
I'm no longer a nobody. Dad was so excited. He didn't even know where to begin. But my movement and reactions were still limited. It would take time. There were seriously times where I almost gave up, but I had to hold on to this. My dad promised never to leave me alone, and he kept his word. At night, my dad moved my bed towards the window. It was the first time I'd seen the sky for the last 7 years. At that moment, a star fell from the sky. I
Yes.
closed my eyes and wished to be able to speak again. I mean, there must have been a reason for the star to fall at that moment, right? It couldn't have been a coincidence. That night, my dad told me about that dark day. He told me how Snowball ran home barking nonstop. My mom tried to shut him up and to kick him out, but he refused. He bit my dad's pants and kept pushing until my dad came with him outside. From afar, he saw me motionless on the ground. He panicked and drove me to the hospital in a hurry. There, they told him that there was no hope. But my dad wouldn't give up. He knew there would come a day where I'd be okay again. He must have gotten sick of waiting for that day. It's true that I was happy for
He
recovering
waited
gradually.
for 7 years. Oh, I got goosebumps, guys. This is awesome.
But even then, I didn't feel completely free. People around me were still controlling everything. When and what I ate, if I could stay in bed, or if I should be sitting on a chair. It didn't matter how many times I blinked, I couldn't say anything except for yes and no. One day, my dad came in all happy. He told me that the doctors had finally agreed to let him take me on a wheelchair around the city. It was the first time in so long that I get to move and finally leave my bed. I was scared. The outside world must have changed a lot. I didn't know if I should go. But I needed this. It was time to get back out there. I remember one moment from that day very vividly. My dad left me alone in the car on our way back in order to buy something quickly from the store. A woman passed by, looked at me, and smiled. I didn't know the reason behind her smile back then, and I'll never know. But that small smile, a small human interaction, made me feel better again. That woman's smile is what pushed me to continue. Seeing my dad come into my room was always the best
from a
moment of my
stranger.
life.
But this is the reason why you should be very friendly in real life, because when you laugh at a person, when you smile at a person, that is sometimes a sign who can increase the mood of the other person. So I'm always very friendly to other persons, if they're strangers or not, like in the supermarket or something like that. I'm very friendly to them.
However, I wasn't pleased when my dad entered my room with the press who came to listen to my story. Apparently, they decided that my story was worth being told and shared. The press ruined my peace and quiet. My mom even returned.
She can adopt me.
What did you say? She can adopt you?
Yes.
Fridolin, she cannot adopt you because this is a short story. This is an animated story. This isn't real.
Ooh.
Okay? And you live here. You have your friend Alpaki. You have your friend Lion. You can't go out there, okay?
Okay.
She cannot adopt you. Okay? Fridolin has ideas. I can't believe that. I can't believe that.
Spotlight. She returned after disappearing for so long, just for fame. The press did help a bit though. My dad had them help us look for solutions and treatments that might help me get better. My mom though, well, she didn't exactly show up because she suddenly remembered the importance of family. She was just there for fame. And Dad wanted me to decide if she could stay or not. Mom's answer was, "My dear daughter, do you want your mommy back in your life?" I blinked nonstop, and this meant I wanted her to go, because I knew she didn't care if I lived or died. My dad was a person who'd taken care of me my whole life. Of course he had weak moments where he wasn't by my side, but at least he still loved me enough and thought of me all the time. And for me, that was
It's
enough.
always, you can't understand him. It's always, it's hard for him too, because he thought that his daughter is in coma and she can't hear anything. So he hasn't visited her like for 3 years, because he has depression or something like that. So I can understand him. It's very hard, but you have ups and downs in that time. But all in all, he loves her. So he's a nice guy, and this mother is a disgusting human being.
And guess what? My dad got in contact with one of the big companies that made medical devices. They had created a device that gets implanted inside the brain and is connected to a special computer. The device sends electric waves to the computer that then says the words out loud. That company heard about my condition in the media and were happy to help me.
And the first thing I did was to watch a HeyMats video. Because I can connect to the internet with my chip in my head, okay? This has to be the first thing, okay? To watch a HeyMats video.
It was pretty funny. Everything I said made everyone laugh, but for me it was sad because I never got an answer to my question. What I asked was, what happened to my dog Snowball? My story might be sad. Some of you might believe it, and others will say that it is just a product of my imagination. But what can't be denied is that there are a lot of people like me in this world who no one knows anything about because they don't have the ability to connect with people. It wouldn't hurt to act nicely towards them and not to ignore them, because like me, they have feelings too. My suffering lasted for 7 years, but I truly believe that the star that fell that night was the reason my wish of being able to talk again came true. Everything happens for a reason.
Okay, this is everything, guys. Thanks for watching. Here, oh, sorry, Fridolin. Okay, I think you broke some bones, but doesn't matter. Okay, guys. Okay, that was an awesome story. Okay, I thought there would be a better happy end, that she gets alive or something like that, and she can move her whole body. But yeah, it isn't the end. The end is that she can only blink. This is the only way she can communicate, and she has to be on a machine. And then she got a chip in her head, and then she can communicate better with other people, but she cannot move her whole body, so she has to be in a wheelchair her whole rest life. And this is very hard, guys, to be in a wheelchair, but better than nothing. And yes, the mother's away. This is the perfect thing. A nice thing would be as well that they get back Snowball, and then everything would be fine. Yeah, she has her dad, she has Snowball, and she can communicate. That would be a nice end. But okay, nice short story. If I should react more to that kind of short stories, please leave a like. Maybe we can hit that 20 like, that would be awesome. And of course, subscribe to my channel. It's one click below the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and we see each other in the next video tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, guys. Bye bye. I don't know, here you can subscribe, here you see to other videos, like every time.